welcome into Bils tonight, and the last-second loss by the Buffalo Bills. They end up losing in overtime to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 33-27 is the final score. They scored 17 unanswered points to push it into overtime. A really last-minute effort by the Buffalo Bills to be able to push.
Yeah, it was a pretty frustrating loss because when you got down to it, there were a couple of Steph Diggs trying to get the ball to him. Not in the first half as well. Late in overtime, he tried to. Late in regulation, he tried to. A couple of non-calls that are going to have the referee crowd. The referee costs the game crowd going crazy on Twitter. Even Romo and the announcers on CBS pointed out there was a couple of things that were called that were just. The non-calls that didn't get called that would have really aided the Bills in certain situations. But you do have to tip your hat. Josh Allen was a warrior today. He really brought that team back in the second half after what could hardly have been a worse first half for the Buffalo Bills. They came back, forced it into overtime, gave themselves a chance to win it. And those are sometimes even harder to take than a blowout loss would have been.
Yeah, first half versus the second half. I mean, the first half they score on 1 of their 6 offensive possessions. In the second half, they make it 4 of 6 offensive possessions. So quite a big shift from the offense, from the defense when you look at the first half compared to the second half. But at the end of the day, just not enough to get the win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This was a win that this team wanted, that Sean McDermott wanted. He is now 0-7 against Tom Brady as a Buffalo Bills head coach. I know a lot of players on this team wanted to get that first win against Tom Brady, such a great quarterback in today's NFL. They'll get a chance again at some point. Couldn't get it tonight, but glad that they were able to force it to overtime. The first half compared to the second half, you were watching 2 different teams. Nothing was coming together in the first half. Yes, calls were not going their way, but in the second half, they started to string things together. Josh Allen got going on 1 drive in the first half where it was that big completion to Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs, and Emmanuel Sanders started off that drive, I believe, which got the Bills going into a rhythm. Then Josh Allen scrambled for 10 yards for a first down. Ultimately ended up in nothing. But then in the second half, they started to get some drives together where it was like, here comes the Bills offense, the offense that we know from last season, the offense that we've seen at times in this season, getting back to their old ways. And it was all about getting into that rhythm. That's what we talked about a lot in our pregame show is Josh Allen is his best when he gets into an early rhythm, when he finds those easy wins, when he gets to his check down when he needs to, when he throws the ball away when he needs to. That wasn't the case at some points in the first half. So first half compared to the second half, how do you kind of digest all of this with what the Bills did in the first 2 halves?
Most notably, the first half, they never handed it off to a running back the entire first half. I think that was a case where you saw an offensive coaching staff, Brian Daboll, Ken Dorsey, even Josh Allen, the players, they were spinning the dial a little bit to try find out an answer for the pressure that Tampa Bay was bringing, some of the things they were doing defensively. They were trying some things in their pass protection and in their pass routes with the timing of Josh's routes, how deep he could drop, how much time he was going to have, whether they could decipher what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were doing. I think they were spinning the dial a little bit, running some exploratory plays to find out what they were going to be able to do. And finally, obviously, it started to come together in the second half. They did start to hand the football off a little bit. Devin Singletary had a couple of very nice runs in the second half, some timely runs that helped. In the very early going, they were throwing the ball to Singletary quite a bit, especially on that first drive where he got the ball 3 or 4 times in a row after the first down. I think they were really trying to decipher what Tampa was going to do to them defensively before they came out in the second half and did it. I think now, obviously, it took them a while, no question. And the fact that they only scored 3 points in the first half probably had them looking sideways at each other and said, look, we got to figure something out. They did get it done in the second half. They did come out and play a lot better and deciphered the protection problems they had in the first half. They straightened those out. Josh had a little bit more time, and they were more effective, obviously, in the second half. And I think that comes from what they had learned through a really bad half of football in the first and second quarter.
You got 24 scored points in the second half compared to just 3 in the first half. Do you think there was one play or something that was the difference maker in how the Buffalo Bills really started to turn it around, whether it be on offense or defense, aside from them just really figuring out how the Bucs defense was going at them? Because in the first half it was, and it didn't really change. I mean, it was blitz, 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 which Josh Allen this year is not that great against the blitz. Right. He's a 55% completion percentage against blitz, and his yards per attempt average is low against the blitz too. And so Tampa Bay Buccaneers were sending the blitz at him almost every other play, and it was hitting home quickly. And Josh didn't have a lot of time to react. He didn't have a lot of time to look to his receivers. He was sacked 3 times, I believe, in the first half there. So what do you think was the difference?
Well, they found a way to get the ball out of Josh's hands, even in the face of quick pressure. Now, they started trying to get it to the back. Then later on, they tried to do some RPO stuff. That's what happened on the Gabe Davis touchdown later. The Dawson Knox touchdown was a 17-yarder. But then they also had a key pass in late in regulation, the kind of the pass where Dawson Knox was pass protecting, then just turned around and caught that pass to get him down deep into Tampa Bay territory. Those kind of things are what helped the Bills just decipher and combat the quick pressure that the Bucs were getting on Josh Allen in the first half. They did a much better job in the second half getting a hat on a hat. And one of the things they did as well, the running backs, Devin, Singletary, and whoever was in there, in the first half, the backs were in the backfield, and if they were going to pass protect, I noticed too, they would step up in front of Josh and wait for to decipher, and then the guy gets through and they start to try and block him, but then it was too late. In the second half, what they did, they ran and got the guy up at the line of scrimmage. They went and met him 3 or 4 yards away from Josh Allen. Instead of standing so close to Josh Allen, the contact was right where Josh was or right in front of him, and it bothered him. But when they got out ahead of where they were supposed to be, away from Josh, and then engaged the rusher, it gave Josh that little extra time, a little more confidence to have half a second more to throw the football. Also, the use of the short pass out to the sidelines, the quick releases against pressure, those seem to be a little bit more comfortable for Josh in the second half as well. So their ability to decipher what the Bucs were doing with their pressure and have an answer for it in the second half was the difference.
Josh Allen throws for 308 passing yards, 109 yards on the ground for him, 12 attempts, 1 rushing touchdown. He throws 2 touchdowns in the air and then that 1 interception. How much of a kudos does Josh Allen deserve in this game for putting up those types of numbers? Again, not like a crazy efficient day. I mean, he completes 66.6% of his passes, but in the end, he hung in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one more example that, you look at that game. Josh was one of the best players on the field for either team. You can say Tom Brady may be the MVP this year. I mean, he may have a stranglehold on that, given what he's doing. Although the second half was nothing to write home about, it was good enough. And with the last play where the Bills blow coverage and leave a guy running wide open in overtime, that's kind of tough to swallow for a Bills fan as well. But, the 2 quarterbacks in this game were the keys. And Josh, at times, Josh was carrying this team like it was a backpack going to school. I mean, he had him on his back. Fought off an ankle injury late in the game. They taped up his toe, so we'll keep an eye on how bad that's going to be and how much that's going to hamper him going forward. But there's no doubt, 300 yards passing and 100 yards rushing, 3-1 TDs to picks. Yeah, he played really well, even in the midst of a bad first half for everybody.
Yeah, he's a competitor, and he's never going to stop competing. We saw that in the second half as they pushed into overtime there. Unfortunately, couldn't score in overtime, had that 3 and out, and then gave the Bucs the ball. On defense, though, what did you notice about the Buffalo Bills defense that changed from the first half to the second half? Because the Bucs put up points in the first half. The Bills defense is the best defense in the NFL, and the Bucs offense was moving the ball at ease against the Bills defense. I mean, we've talked about the run defense and the issues that the run defense has had at times with some of those big plays that leak through, but the passing defense is also the best in the NFL, and the Bucs offense was moving the ball pretty easily in the air against the pass defense. Of course, we know Tre'Davious White isn't going to be a part of this team for the rest of the season with that ACL injury, but Dane Jackson did a good job holding it down. So how did you see the Bills defense adjust over the course of the game to be able to limit Tom Brady and limit his offense?
They did. I thought they did a better job taking away Tom Brady's first option in the second half, where he had to pull it back down, and then he had to make a more difficult throw at times. We saw him miss a couple of guys open that he doesn't usually do. They sacked him one. He got away from a sack one time, and it was negated by a hold on the Bucs and a hold on the Bils as well. So they got a push on that. Got him off the field on third down a couple of times, forced him to punt. That was a crucial element, I think, was the fact that they were able to take away that first option that Tom Brady was going to look for and force him to hang on to the football a little bit better. And plus, they did a better job against the run game in the second half. They threw him for a loss on a couple of plays on first down, forced him into some second and longs that helped him on third down. So they just did a better job on early downs, and they did a better job when they knew they were going to throw of forcing him to go to his second, maybe third option.
All right, we're going to be hearing from several players and head coach Sean McDermott throughout the evening. So center Mitch Morse is the first one answering some questions, so let's send it over to him.
I think what we did was we dug ourselves a hole in the first half, communication-wise, execution-wise, and our big thing was, listen, you can't, coming out of the half, you can't win this game in one drive. So we got to execute, put drives together. And we were able to do that. The defense put us in a great position to succeed in the second half. This one, like every loss, is tough. This team has a lot of resiliency. I don't know I think we did a 3-and-out going in overtime, and then you give number 12 on the other side that opportunity. He has a chance to win the game at any time. And so it's a really tough one, this one. Every loss is tough, but I think the resiliency of this team is pretty amazing. We also know that there's a sense of urgency like every week, but, we're really in crunch time here. We know what we got, but we have to put something together if we want to keep taking steps to achieve our ultimate goal.
Mitch, you mentioned resiliency. Josh and the offense, a little bit of a slow start there, especially in the first half. But you talk about the effort of your quarterback there in the second half, just basically trying to put it on his shoulders and do what he could.
Josh is one of the toughest competitors, one of the most resilient football players and people I've been around. Never seen him point a finger, except at himself. The guy you can rally around, a guy who was in pain. You saw the pain he was in and was still asking for QB runs and still asking to put it on his back. And when you have a guy like that step into a huddle, you're so prideful in having a quarterback like that, and you want to do everything in your power to help him lead our team down the field. So this will be a game that we can learn from. We're an extremely tough loss, but Josh Allen is a competitor. And if anyone questioned that after today, then they weren't watching the same game we were.
Tell the two halves here. Tell the two halves. What did Coach McDermott tell you guys at halftime, and how important was it to get the run game going?
Well, they had some extremely capable pass rushers. And anytime you can run the ball or have the threat of run, it doesn't mitigate the pass rush, but it puts us in positions to be successful at times. Anytime you get a chance to slow those guys down is a good one. Coach McDermott put the game in our hands, like I had echoed before. Couldn't win this game in one drive, had to execute multiple drives, play complementary football, which is something he's always said. And I think we did that in the second half. But, like I said earlier, we dug ourselves, like you said earlier. It was a tale of two halves, and the first half wasn't it.
Mitch, you talked about use the word communication. And I've heard you use that before, and things have gone kind of south during the stretch earlier this season. Can you maybe take us inside that a little bit? At this point of the season, what's going on out front from a communication?
Well, I think if you just look at the first 10 plays of today, it was just one player off of one thing, and it was something we can completely control, whether it's echoing the calls, understanding the changes that Josh might make to a play, and really just keeping no secrets. I think the thing that we got ourselves into was pretending like it was some big secret what we were doing. Everyone on the same page, even if it's wrong, is better than 4 people doing the right thing and 1 person doing something off topic. And, ultimately that comes down to me, making sure that the O-linemen get everything together. So I mean, that was definitely one of the factors that played into that first half slump. Appreciate you.
All right, that was Mitch Morse completely owning everything that happened in the first half, calling it the first half slump compared to how they operated and played in the second half. And he even noticed, too, this is crunch time. If we're going to do something, if we want to make a run at the playoffs and beyond, this is the time to get your stuff together and start winning games. They can't afford any more losses. They need to hone in on figuring out what needs to be done for them to win football games.
Yeah, there's no question about it. They're running out of real estate to, coast in. They've got some crucial games coming up. They've got to win. They can't drop very many more games at all. I mean, they may have to run the table. It'll depend on how the rest of the games fall. But for now, there's no question their postseason aspirations are in their own hands. If they can run the table, if they can win those games, they're going to be fine. But that's a tall order. 11 wins is going to get you in this year with seven teams getting in the playoffs. 11 wins will definitely get you in. But now you're looking at a team that's 7-6 and playing like about a 500 ball club right now. They're about as close to being as many wins as there are losses. That's got to change, and they got to play more consistently like they did in the second half tonight rather than the first half. And like he said, he's right. The communication and the execution in the first half just wasn't there. But once they started getting it, and like I said before, when they started getting some feedback from Brian Daboll and they started talking about things, then they started to get their feet under them in the second half and get a handle on it. They handled things much better. Plus, they found some things they could do and do well, and they hammered those pretty hard, and that's what got them back into the game.
Execution and consistency are words that we heard leading up to this game throughout the week from coaches and players. I'm sure it's going to be much of the same this week as they search for their next win. All right, Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer are answering some questions right now, so let's send it to them.
Change the momentum there in the second half defensively?
I think we just had to lock in on what we were doing. In that first half, we were getting some big plays, and I don't think we could really get. I don't know the stats. I don't really know how we did on third down, but it just felt like we couldn't get off the field. And so, second half, we tried to just dial in, do what we do, focus in, and it just paid off.
Looks like some of the blitz calls were pretty effective in helping you guys on the back end in the second half. Like Matt was getting home. Can you just comment on maybe some of that blitz pressure kicking in and helping you guys?
Yeah, we had some good pressures dialed up. Again, a couple big plays, changed the outcome of the game. Defensively, we didn't take the ball away enough to allow us to help us win the game. But yeah, a couple big plays. But it's a good football team. A couple big plays.
You all had different responsibilities, but from what you know of what happened on the final play, what did you see transpiring there? How that happened?
To be honest, I'm not sure. I was on Gronk. I was on number 3. I didn't see the play. I was man to man on him, and he ran out, so I was out, and then I turned around and the dude's running up the sideline. I'm not really sure yet.
Guys, what does it say about this team's capabilities and mindset to be able to come back from 21 points down at halftime against that team?
Yeah, I mean, there's no moral victories in this league. Loss is a loss. It's tough. But the resilience we have to stay in the game and continue to take one play at a time and fight back, it says a lot about the guys in the locker room. Tough loss, but, we can build some momentum off of how we played in the second half and carry it over into next week. Yeah, I mean, I was in the post. The pattern pressure was to my right, and that crosser, I think a crosser came from the right side to the left side. You got Branch over there.
Something like that.
Yeah. They dialed up a good play versus tough coverage. So, but at the end of the day, we got to execute. Again, defensively, we didn't take the ball away nearly enough as we need to. We didn't take the ball away at all. But we got to figure out ways to get the ball back.
What can both of you guys say about the performance of your quarterback? I mean, it felt for a while there like you put the whole team on his back.
Yeah, he's a baller, and I'll go to war with Josh any day of the week.
How much did Devin Singletary's big run in that second half give you guys a spark?
There was a lot of plays the offense had in the second half that gave us some spark. They started moving the football, putting points up, and then we went out there getting some stops on third down, and as we've seen before, once we start playing complementary football, this team's dangerous. We just got to get there from the start of the first quarter.
Mike, I know it's no moral victories, but did you see anything in that second half that you guys maybe discovered a little bit that can spark you, not for this game, but going forward, maybe a more aggressive style, anything like that?
I think we already knew what type of guys we had in this locker room. We were down big in the first half. We came into the locker room. We were just talking about each and every play, just keep inching away, and try to make it close going to the fourth quarter. And we did that. Then I got to watch the film to see kind of scheme-wise what we did exactly. I know the plays that we ran, but I'm in the back end. I can't really see what's going on up front. So, pay attention to what we did scheme-wise, and obviously we were doing well in the second half. So whatever we were doing, just continue to do that.
Jordan back there with Dane, Jackson, kind of the first real big under the lights opportunity for him. How do you think he did tonight? And then how was the communication with them? Because that's a new piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, we trust Dane going in the game. He's a baller. He's got a lot of heart, and he knew he was going to get some targets today. But he held his own. Obviously that pass interference, that's an aggressive play. Tough. I mean, could have gone either way. But aggressive play, nobody's out there, hey, Dane, next play. But, he made some big plays for us, made some big PBUs, some big tackles. But Dane's definitely a baller.
Did you feel like flags went both ways in this game?
I'm not. I don't know.
Thanks, guys. Devin, Singletary, next.
They're telling us that Dane Jackson is a baller and a boss. He had a good game. I mean, this kid was tasked with a lot. He played last game, obviously, but a different game plan with the Patriots offense versus the Bucs offense. From Monday night to Sunday afternoon, the weather really affected Monday night's game. We knew the Patriots were going to run the ball, so Dane Jackson maybe wasn't going to get the look that he got with the Bucs offense in this one. Quite a few talented wide receivers on the Bucs offense, and Dane did a good job holding his own. What did you see out of this young player who's been thrown into a starting role?
Played well. He did not stand out because of his poor play. He didn't feel like he was getting picked on at any point. Certainly the guys he was guarding had some targets. He took a couple of penalties even as well, but nothing that was egregious. And he was competing a lot hard, and I thought he held his own extremely well. I thought the guys in the secondary, for the struggle that it was in the first half, I thought they played very well. I thought Tre'Davious White his absence was felt. And even up to and including that last play that got loose in overtime, I don't know that Dane Jackson or Tre'Davious White was going to make a difference on that play. It was a miscommunication somewhere, and somebody let somebody run. It's not really probably the way it was designed to have Tremaine Edmunds chasing a wide receiver across the field like that. But, kudos to them. They got it done. But that's as for the secondary, I thought with Levi, Wallace, and Dane Jackson back there, I thought they played pretty solidly. And I don't think that those guys have any reason to feel bad about the way that game went for them.
Yeah, I would agree. Devin Singletary, he had a pretty efficient day once he got involved. 4 attempts, 52 rushing yards. That's 13 yards per rush for Devin Singletary. Also had 6 catches for 37 yards, was targeted 7 times. He's answering some questions right now. So here's Devin.
Very heartbreaking. Huh? I mean, it's heartbreaking. That's the only way I can put it.
It looked like Josh was kind of the primary ball carrier, at least earlier in the game. How did you try to kind of set your head into the game, knowing you might be doing protection, ball fakes, maybe catching a little out of the backfield? Did it kind of change your approach a little bit for yourself?
Nah, my approach was the same. Whatever I need to do to help the team, that's what I was willing to do. And we just fell short today.
In the second half, did you feel like once you did start to mix the run in a little bit, it kind of caught them napping a little bit? It's almost like you guys lulled them to sleep, not using the run until the second half there.
Yeah, we was able to bust a few big runs, to help us get going. So I guess you could put it that way.
What was it like at halftime, being down that you guys were? What was the mood in the locker room?
Man, it was just, the message was just keep fighting. we know we was better than what we showed in the first half, and we really had to get back to being us. And I feel like even though we fell short, I feel like we showed we got some fight in us.
What about the second half was more like you guys?
Can you say it again?
Well, what in the second half was getting back to being more like you?
Just executing. That's really what it came down to. If it's picking up your man in pass pro, if your number called in the run game, making a play, whatever it may be, that's being us, executing.
What did you see from your quarterback today?
Man, that's our general for sure. Man, he's a dog. No matter what, he's always going to give it his all, and that's what he showed.
Dawson, same question for you on Josh. I know you guys are close. I mean, it seemed like for a while there, he was kind of putting the team on his back. What did he show you today?
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. He's a warrior, and everybody sees that. And, when the team rallies around a guy like that, it's going to be hard to beat. But, yeah, I mean, the way he puts the team on the back, dealing with whatever injury he's got right now, we've seen it time after time from him, so no one's really surprised. But there's no other guy I'd rather lead us into a game.
Well, so what happened at halftime? How were you guys able to flip the switch offensively?
Dave just had a great plan coming out of the half. We found out a few things that were working for us and just stuck with that. Execution was a little better. They were just coaching staff did a great job making some adjustments.
Did it feel like more play calling or execution?
A little of both. In order for us to really execute well, everything has to be on point. Every single guy out there has to be doing their 111th. And the coaching staff did a great job putting us in that position to execute well. And so we were able to see that clicking well. And I think with a loss like this, it hurts really bad. Obviously, it hurts, but we're going to take a lot of momentum away from this. There's no other group of guys I'd rather go to games with. There's no other group of guys I'd rather go to war with, and we're going to take a lot of good things out of this.
Dawson, follow up on that. You guys say there's no moral victories, but doesn't it matter that it didn't just go the way it went in the first half, that you guys showed all this going forward from this point on, as late as we are in the year, but how much you guys showed in the second half?
Yeah, no question. It shows a lot about who we are as a team. There's no quitting us, and I think that's a positive sign, what we showed in that second half. I think, again, a loss is a loss, but there's momentum that's going to come out of this.
Knowing what you guys are clearly capable of doing, how frustrating is it to fall in the 21-point hole in the first half? And how do you get off to quicker starts? How do you play the type of football that you're capable of from the jump?
Obviously no one wants to get into a 21-point deficit that early. But we were put in that situation. We were able to come back and tie it up. And it just starts with one play at a time. That's kind of the repetition that we always say in the huddle. It's, you can't score 21 points on one possession, on one play. So it just, the mentality of taking every play with a life of itself, with, doing your job, doing your 111th. I mean, you have to execute each and every play, and that's kind of mentality we had that second half. So if we start taking that into the whole game, I think it's going to be a pretty good rest of the season for us.
What were some of the things that Tampa Bay's defense was doing, against you guys in the first half that you were able to, adjust, in the second half, obviously?
They had a great scheme. They had some great pressures that were kind of messing with us a little bit, but after seeing those and after making the adjustments from the coaching staff, we were able to stop some of those and get some positive momentum rolling. Again, it was just those halftime adjustments that were so great from all of our coaches. So, I'm sure there's going to be other teams that try to scheme us up like they did that first half, but we're going to be ready for it.
It seems like, second half, it was, try to get Devin involved. It seemed like when the run game got going, it seemed like that opened up the offense a little bit more. So will we be able to see a little bit more aggressive style, from this second half all the way on through the rest of the season?
Oh, no question. I think anytime we get him going with the ball, it's just going to open up the whole offense. And nobody likes that more than the O-line and myself, blocking and seeing him gash the defense, because we know what that does for the whole offense. So we always talk about being able to be two-dimensional, run and the pass. And there's not a lot of teams that can stop us when we're doing both those well.
Dawson said their loss is a loss, but there's some momentum that's going to come from this, and that's something that we all want to hear. We saw some heart from this team in this game, not in the first half, but in the second half. We found out it's still there, it's still within them. One thing that I also noticed about this game that I haven't seen in some of our last few losses was the variety of this offense. And I know the run game really didn't get involved until the second half, but when they did get involved, they were efficient. And we saw several different receivers catch passes from Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, Dawson, Knox, Gabe Davis, Devin, Singletary. They all had at least 5 catches, which is big numbers for these receivers to put up. Not necessarily big receiving yards, but the amount of catches that they had. And I know it's not like this offense hasn't tried to get several weapons involved at several different times, even in losses, but it was working in this game. How did you see several of our wide receivers be involved in this game plan? And you did have a lot more wide receivers active in this one too.
Right. When you get down to need games, when you need plays in situations, I've said this before because I was told to it by some great football people. When you get into these situations like this, don't think run or pass or screen pass or long pass or short pass. Think players. Get the ball into your guys' hands. Steph Diggs, 7 receptions. Beasley, 9. Knox, 7. Gabriel Davis, 5. Singletary with 6. Everybody else had just 1. A couple of guys with 1. So you had, Diggs, Beasley, Knox are the guys that need to get the ball. And they did tonight, and it all came through in that second half. When you get into these crunch time, and of course, you've always got 17, too. You can give the ball to Josh in his hands as well. But when you get into these situations where you've got to come back and you've got to get back into a game when you're down 24-3, you think players. And they started going to the players that they can count on. And I think it's interesting that Gabe Davis turned out to be one of those guys in this ball game. When Emmanuel Sanders went down, it seemed to me Gabe Davis played every bit as good as we've seen Emmanuel Sanders play in that spot. So I think they've got a lot of confidence in him and should have going forward.
Yeah, in their last 3 losses leading up to this game, the Bills were only averaging just over 10 points a game. So good to see them get to 27, even if it was a loss. I mean, you got to exercise your muscles. You got to exercise the Bills' offense. So it was good to see all these guys get involved still, even if it was a loss, because like Dawson Knox said, a loss is a loss, but we're going to have some momentum from this one, and I totally believe that. Let's hear from 2 of our defensive guys, Dane Jackson and Levi Wallace.
Yeah, I know it's kind of fresh, just getting off the field and everything, but how do you think you held up, kind of replacing Tre'Davious? I know it's 1 game removed from the Patriots, but under the bright lights and against that offense.
It was pretty good, but, really doesn't matter. We didn't get a dub, so really doesn't matter to me. I played pretty solid thanks to my teammates supporting me all week and having that confidence in me.
How tough is that play along the sideline when a receiver's coming back to the ball and the ball's thrown short? It seems damn near impossible to not make contact with the receiver who's coming back through your body, right?
Yeah, it's pretty tough. He's a bigger receiver, so, I just try to get my head around and make a play on the ball. It didn't work in my favor, but, I try to make a play on the ball.
Levi, what was your view of the call in overtime, the pass interference? I think it was you were on Evans on that play.
I think it's a bad call. I think, I don't know. You have to ask the ref. I think I played it as good as it can be played.
What was both of your view of that final touchdown?
I'm sorry?
That final play, can you kind of take us through each of your views on it?
I got to go back and look at the tape, to be honest, see what happened. It happened fast, so I got to go back and look at it.
Was there any mix-up in the coverage on that play that you guys know of? You feel like the defense was all on the same page on that play?
Yep.
Yeah.
What do you guys think allowed you to kind of hold them to 3 points there in the second half? What was working for you guys? It seemed like some of the blitzes were helping you on the front end. They were getting home a little bit better, moving them off his spot, but I didn't know if you guys felt there was anything else that was helping you lock them down in the second half.
I think us just staying together as a defense. We have our own pep talks on the sideline. We come out every time we step on that field, we bring it up and just letting each other know like it's time. You know what I mean? So I think just us being together and just working together.
Now, you guys guys, they played zone coverage, but, you know, Coach Frazier was dialing it up, so it was able for you guys to play a little bit more man and lock up your guy. Playing against some of the, you know, obviously some of the top receivers in the NFL, you know, how much were you guys up for that challenge in that second half?
I think that just comes with the job. I think no matter what Frazier calls, we have to step up and we have to be those guys that he can count on the outside. And I think we embraced it. We embraced it well. Dane played a hell of a game, and we'll go from there.
Dane, I know it's not either of your primary responsibilities, but another big run against in the first half, I think it was 47 yards. If you guys had a chance to look back at that play at all, I mean, what did you see there, and how does that keep happening to this defense?
We haven't gotten to the tape yet. I mean, after that play, it's next play. You know, we can't sit there and harp on one play. That was the first quarter of the game, and we played 5 quarters tonight. So we haven't looked at it, and we have to get you back on that answer later.
Does it feel like you guys are getting onto something, though, with the way that you played in that second half, just in terms of everything kind of clicking for the most part, the first 30 minutes?
I think it goes back to Micah and Poyer, just the urgency that they bring to the table, as well as Tremaine. Just the leadership that we have in that defense. We knew we had to make some stops if we had wanted any chance in this game. We didn't start out the way we wanted to, but we kept fighting. We were going to fight regardless of the score.
Tremaine Edmunds next.
The Bills defense only allowed 3 points in the second half. Of course, they had that touchdown in overtime, but a big difference, just like the offense, from the first half to the second half. It seems like adjustments were made on both sides of the ball in the locker room, and it worked when they came out of the locker room at halftime and started to play in the third quarter. Was there another defensive player? We talked about Dane Jackson already, but was there someone that also you thought had a good game?
Yeah, I thought late in that game, I thought Matt Milano, the sack he got on Brady late to send the Bucs off the field to give the Bills the last chance at that last drive was enormous. And that play coming off after, I think, a double foul where they had a holding on offense, holding on defense. It was another 3rd down and 5. And to get him for an, I think, 11-yard sack was absolutely enormous in that moment. So Milano, I would say, deserves some real credit there.
He's so important to this defense. I mean, you can match him up against guys that you usually wouldn't put a linebacker on. And we thought, and a lot of times, I mean, Gronk had a good game, but he had 5 catches for 62 receiving yards. Easily could have been more, but I think at times this defense did a good job of limiting what he could do in his ability. I know Chris Godwin did go off for over 100 receiving yards, but the tight end has usually been something that the Buffalo Bills defense has struggled with limiting, with stopping, and I think they did a good job of not letting him do more in this game.
Yeah, the defense, I thought, obviously took some time to get its feet underneath it, but with an offensive with this kind of weaponry, and the way they just, they got the guy pulling the trigger who never makes really any mistakes. You really got to tip your hat to the second half they put out. The second half of the Bills' defense went out there and put out was every bit the defense, the great display that the Bucs' offense was in the first half. You'd rather be playing good late in the game than bad late in the game. So they took the overtime went the wrong way, no question about it. But the defense really was as much about this game going to overtime as the offense was coming out and scoring all those points unanswered. And that was huge, I thought, the way the defense also rebounded from what was a poor first half.
All right, Tremaine Edmunds is on the podium. Let's hear his thoughts from tonight's game.
I just got to do a better job with my eyes. There's really no excuse for it. Just do a better job with my eyes and making sure that we execute at a high level.
Was everyone in the right position on that play? And was the communication where it needed to be for that play?
Based off the results, it doesn't look like we were in the right place. But like I said, man, it's just execution. In critical times of the game, not executing at a high level. That's what we preach about week in, week out. And, that's what we have to get fixed. And, in order to win these close ball games in those critical times, we got to execute better. And that starts with me being a middle linebacker.
What about that play call led you, a linebacker, being on a wide receiver in that spot?
I mean, it has nothing to do with the play call. I mean, at the end of the day, whatever play is called, we just got to execute it. It's really no need to point fingers about the play calling. It's just we got to execute. Defensively, whatever's called out there, we got to just bow up and make a play. And that's just reality of it.
Sorry about that. From an execution standpoint, then, how would you, hindsight being what it is, how would you have executed differently, personally?
Just putting myself in a better position to make a play on the ball. It's kind of hard. A lot of things was going on as far as exactly what happened. I didn't even look at the replay of it, but obviously just wasn't in the right position to make a play. But they made more plays than us.
For that run in the first quarter, what did you see on that play? What happened, and how do those big game-changing type runs keep happening against this defense?
Yeah, go back to the word execution. We didn't execute well. Guys wasn't in their gaps, and it hit us. So we gotta, in particularly earlier in the game, find ways to eliminate explosive plays, and kind of dug ourselves a hole early. But at the end of the day, I just want to say I take my hats off to the whole team, man, because throughout the game I never saw nobody put their heads down. And no matter what happens, I know we didn't get the result that we wanted. I'm extremely proud of the guys, man, because when I look on the sideline, everybody, head is up. Everybody is fighting till that whistle hits zero, man. And every time you're not gonna get the result that you want, but to see that fight in your guys, to see that dog in your guys, I mean, what more can you ask for, man? And So, I got chills. Obviously, we didn't make enough plays. I didn't make enough plays. But, to see that fight in the guys, man, I mean, that's what you look for in a football team.
Tremaine Edmunds saw the fight in his team. One guy who wouldn't stop until the whistle blew to the end of the game was Josh Allen. He's at the podium right now. Let's send it to him.
We generally don't ask about injuries, but you're obviously wearing a boot on your foot. Can you tell us what the prognosis is?
Honestly, I'm not quite sure. I guess we'll do some more tests tomorrow, but finished the game on it, so I don't think it's going to be a big deal.
How much pain were you in? And we saw you limp, right afterwards and everything, and you obviously fought through it, but what's your sense of how it feels?
It's pretty sore. It's football.
What kicked you guys into rhythm there in the second half? What do you think led to finding rhythm that's been kind of sporadic lately?
Yeah, I think we had a good talk at halftime. Guys responded well. I know the score is what the score was, but I'm damn proud of our team and how we fought in that second half, and that's who we are. That's the team I've known to love and to know, really. Guys that are just resilient, guys that want to fight for each other. And again, it is what it is. The score is what the score was. But to come out and play that way, I'm proud of our team, of how we did it. Honestly, we wish the end result was different, but I'm super proud of our guys.
Is it fair to read more into that, Josh, in the sense, obviously no moral victories, you're saying that, but given what this team has been through, the inconsistency we've seen, Monday night, all of that kind of rolled into, when you look at what happened in the second half, do you feel as if you kind of found yourselves?
Well, I think there's many teams that would have folded in that position, especially coming out in the second half, and we didn't move the ball like we wanted to early, getting the ball back at half. But like I said, we just got guys that we want to win. We want to be great. And with how we respond in that second half, again, that's the team that we've got to be going forward. And we understand that, and we know that, and I don't expect anything else.
Josh, do you worry at this point in the season that with this many losses, though, that the idea of controlling your own destiny may have gotten away from you at this point?
I mean, I still think we control our own destiny. I don't know what the playoff picture looks like. That's neither here nor there. But at this point in time, we got to go 1-0 each week, and it starts this next week. We got to find a way to put together a good game plan, start winning football games. Again, we talk about playoff caliber, and that's our goal, is to punch our ticket into the playoffs, no matter how that be. So that's looking at the bigger picture. Obviously, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to focus one game at a time and do what we need to do.
Josh, in the first half, the blitzes were effective. In the second half, it seemed like you guys made some interesting adjustments at halftime. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, obviously they were doing a lot of these, they're called change pressures, where they'll drop a D lineman and bring someone from the secondary or linebacking core, and they were kind of giving us some fits, and I wasn't seeing things as clearly as I should have. But just getting back to some of our base stuff and relying on that, trusting the rules. If they wanted to bring that, and typically resulted in dropping somebody. So just trying to decipher that, find the guy quickly, and give him a chance.
Josh, after the second half touchdown, one of them at least, maybe two, it looked like you went directly to the sideline. What was going on in those moments as you were kind of dealing with the injury in those moments after that?
Well, I mean, understanding the situation of let's not celebrate. Let's not, we want to be happy when we score. Yes, it is hard to score in this league, but the job at that point was, we got to score more. So getting off to the sideline, trying to sit down, talk with the coaches, figure out what we're going to try to do going forward. Our defense played, lights out in that second half. I'm proud of how they played. And unfortunately, they made one more play than we did.
How was the decision made, Josh, for you to stay in the game? You mentioned feeling pretty sore. Were the trainers obviously the trainers were comfortable with you, with the idea of you staying in the game? Were you telling them that you wanted to, and just how was that decision reached?
Yeah, there's no way I was going out.
Josh, you were the primary. It looked like you were the primary ball carrier tonight for all intents and purposes. Just what was your leeway there? Because I know you took advantage of openings when you saw them, even if you dropped back to pass, but then there were other design runs. Can you just kind of walk us through, as much as you can, with kind of what the approach was?
Yeah, we wanted to get a little creative in the run game, and when you have design quarterback runs, you get an extra blocker, and that's tough fit for the defense sometimes. So whether we do that moving forward is not up to me. But again, I just want to do whatever I can to help this team win a football game.
Josh, how important was it coming out in that second half to get Devin Singletary open, and how much did that help the offense from a structure standpoint?
I mean, it helped a lot. Just I know when he had opportunities to run the ball, he ran it well. Made some good plays in the passing game too, and we're going to need more of that going forward.
Josh, Mitch said there were communication issues early, like in the first quarter, yet you guys got it going later in the game. How does that happen early in the game when you guys have prepared and maybe scripted plays or whatever it is in the beginning of the game?
Yeah, well, again, every game's a different situation. Sometimes you practice one thing and they show something completely different. But yeah, it's something obviously we want to work on. We want to be ready to go right off the rip and have fast starts. Again, yeah, it just wasn't in our favor tonight.
What did Gabe Davis show you on that fourth down conversion?
I mean, I got to the sideline after we kicked the field goal, and he just looked over and said, "Thanks for trusting me." That's a guy that obviously has been limited in his opportunities this year. But again, he shows up when he has to, and we're going to need more of him going forward. I don't know the extent of Emmanuel, of what happened with him. Hopefully we can get him back as soon as possible. But Gabe's just a guy that, again, he doesn't complain. He doesn't say much. He puts his head down and he works extremely hard. He's one of the guys in the locker room that everybody loves and gravitates towards. And typically when you do that, you have that type of mindset and work ethic. Typically, plays are going to work out in your favor more often than not.
As much as it sucks to be down 21 points, it has to feel pretty good to be able to crawl back like you did. And I know you mentioned the pride of it, but can you put us in your mind or in the huddle as the game's going back and you are coming back and coming back? Can you describe what that's like?
Yeah, I mean, again, you talk about momentum. You can't see it, but you feel it. And when we're in the huddle, we weren't going to be stopped in that manner. That's the mindset that we had. Again, unfortunately, they made one more play than we did, and hindsight's 20/20, and we can't change anything. But I've said this before, but I think this win or this loss can really pull a team together, and the feeling in the locker room after the game, we're pissed off we didn't win, but the unity and how we were brought together in that second half, I think it's going to pay dividends going forward.
Last one. You wanted to stay in the game. Was there any conversation about maybe, I know you running the football was working, but limiting your movement because you kept running the ball after the injury?
Yeah, I mean, again, I want to do anything in my power to help this team win football games, but whatever the play call is, whatever the look is, if there's an opportunity for me to run via design play or drop back. That's, in my mind, that's the best possible opportunity for me to help this team win football games. Thank you, guys.
All right, we've heard all of these players talk about this momentum, this fight, this unity in the second half, and I think you could bottle that up and bring it into the rest of the season, because in the losses and even in some of those wins, it's been hard to find. We know that this is within that team, but I saw a fight, I saw a want, I saw a willpower that I haven't seen in this group in a couple of weeks, and that Patriots loss was tough. But the way that Josh Allen talked about this loss and how it can bring a team together, I mean, what can this loss, what can this momentum do for this team going forward when, like we said, when, like Mitch Morse said, this is crunch time. This is when these games matter so much. Are the Buffalo Bills in the driver's seat as much as they were 5 weeks ago? No, they have got to win.
It could snap them into a sense of greater urgency on a regular basis. Now, you can say, well, where have they been? Well, you go into that game against the Patriots, there's 40-mile-an-hour winds. Everything's kind of different, and you're kind of fighting the elements while you're trying to play the game. And you go in the rainstorm the week before, whatever. You get out there in a nice night, great conditions, and a chance to play your kind of football in a game that means something, in a game where you had to battle out of it, of being, should I use the dreaded word, embarrassed in that first half. They fought out of it. And I think that mindset of what it was like to be out there competing with the Bucs, the defending world champions in their own building, and coming back and scoring some unanswered points to get back in it and push them to overtime with a chance to win it, that's a frame of mind that you can get back into and carry forward as you prepare for the next game. So, yeah, this game could reap some benefits for this team about reminding them what it takes to play well and play well consistently for an entire game, because they haven't been able to do that. Tonight they didn't do it. They did it in the second half, but they certainly started out slow. Last week they struggled to score points, struggled to stop the run. In New Orleans, they scored some points and played well. It was another nice game in perfect conditions. But this is a game that I think was big because there were a lot of naysayers about the Bills' ability to go down to Tampa Bay and beat the Buccaneers. I think there was a lot of people who thought, I just don't think they're going to measure up. Their defense isn't playing well. You can't stop their offense. Tre'Davious White is out. You can't stop the run. They got Leonard Fournette. You're in for some problems. And it looked like that was exactly what was going to happen until the Bills snapped out of it and started playing to their potential. Certainly Josh Allen was a big part of that, but his ability to find the other guys on this roster brought him back and got him to the chance to take it to overtime, which at the end of the first half, telling Bills fans you were going to take this team to overtime, you would have gotten laughed off Twitter. You just would have gotten it because it looked that bad. And to have them come out and put together a half like they did, perhaps it will be something they can recall and snap back into when they start to prepare for the next game and when the ball kicks off next Sunday.
And we've talked about it. This team is full of talent. This team is so similar to last year's team. They add a couple new pieces. They don't say goodbye to barely anyone. And we know that defenses are going to play this offense differently this year because they have more tape on Josh. They have more tape on Steph and Josh. They have more tape on Cole and Josh. The pieces have been seen by a lot of people at this point, and so you got to do something different. And we were able to see them come together and have some success where they haven't had success before. Josh in the passing game, Josh finding his receivers, Devin Singletary getting involved. We even saw Isaiah McKenzie involved in the offense, which was nice to see. I think that was a piece that was important to this offense last year that we haven't really gotten to see this year. So we'll see how it carries over in the next game. I mean, you have 4 games left on the schedule. You've got the Panthers, the Patriots, the Falcons, and the Jets to end the season. Some good teams that you're going to face. The Falcons beat the Panthers today 29-21. So both teams scoring some points here at the end of the season. But Sean McDermott is at the podium, so let's send it over to Coach.
Okay, we'll open up to your questions here.
Sean, I'm not trying to take money out of your pocket here, but do you feel like the officiating, particularly when it came to the pass interference calls, went both ways in that game?
Yeah, Jay, I'd just rather just say, hey, that's something we got to overcome. That's the piece we can control, and I do respect your question. I know where you're coming from, but at the end of the day, we got to overcome it because we can't control it.
Just came in here in a walking boot. What's your update on
Yeah, I don't know really. I'll give you guys as soon as I get it tomorrow, probably.
Was there any conversation about taking him out of the game? Was that?
Well, our medical staff checked with him. I can tell you, being on the offensive line on the headset there, that there was talk about how he was, what could he do still, and so he's a warrior, and he played his butt off.
His quote was, "There was no way I was coming out."
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise you, I'm sure, right? That's why the guys love him. That's why he's our quarterback. So.
What's to say about that performance? I mean, it felt like for a while there that he was putting the whole team on his back.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, look, I know we came up short, right? Incredible amount of heart and guts that they showed, this team, Josh included, right? But all of them. Again, we came up short. They made one more play than we did, but I love how the team fought.
Just speaking to that, Sean, a little bit, I mean, whether you talk to Josh or the rest of them, it's kind of a theme that second half, in light of everything that's gone on with this team back to Monday night, the inconsistency maybe went beyond, could potentially go beyond this game, that they somehow found themselves, identity, whatever applies.
Yeah, I mean, every game's its own game, right? So let's kind of keep in check here. But I saw something. that I really, I'm real proud of that. But we got to get ourselves prepared for the next game. Obviously, that's each game is its own entity. So.
Coach, what did you tell your guys? Tell the two halves. What did you tell your guys at halftime to get them to go out there and play the way they did?
Yeah, I just felt like overall the staff made really good adjustments, and that goes for all three phases. And we didn't have a very good first half, and I think we found a rhythm offensively in the second half. Real proud of what Coach Dable did and the offensive staff there, and then what Leslie did with the defensive staff. And just even the little things. I mean, the kickoff to waste time towards the end of regulation, just to not give them a chance to get a few plays at least, and then kick maybe a long field goal or throw it in the end zone. I mean, I thought the special teams did a good job, and so again, came up short. They made one more play than we did, but I saw something from the team.
Sean, Tremaine mentioned that he wished he would have executed better and trusted in his eyes more on that last play. What did you see, and kind of what was the plan on that last play?
Yeah, so we were in a man coverage, Josh, and it's one of those man coverage situations, playing them tight, and they ran a rub route, and usually he's in there to clean some things up for us, and that's he's a very good player. He's going to make that play, and I know the look of it is a linebacker on a wide receiver that's not designed to go that way, but we got rubbed, and he's there to clean some things up. So at the end of the day, look, they made one more play, and I'm confident my guys will make it next time.
Sean, what do you attribute the first half struggles to?
I'm sorry?
What do you attribute the first half struggles to the most?
Probably us just settling in on defense, adjusting as the game went. They hit the long run on us there in the first half, and we got caught in a disguise a little bit and didn't get over the top. It was an outside run with two pullers, and so give them the credit too. But we made the adjustments we needed to make, and then offensively, I just feel like overall, I don't know, just didn't really find a rhythm in the first half like we did in the second half. I really like how. Again, the adjustments the offensive staff made in that second half, and we were mixing it up awfully well, I thought, in that second half.
Sean, what was your thought process on two plays? The field goal when you were down 10-0, and then also the punt. I think it was 4th and 3 in the second half.
Sure, yeah. Down 10-0, wanted to get points on the board there, and then to come away with no points at that point, you're down 10-0, just didn't like that feeling if it could have gone that way, and then I thought, I left the offense out for a second, but I did like how the defense, I think we had 3, going back to even the first half there, 3 consecutive stops on defense. And so I thought long and hard about it, and thought giving us the best chance to win, and we had a chance to win it at the end there. So, that could have gone either way, but I chose to punt it back, and felt like it would give us the best chance, towards the end of the game there, and we had a chance, but came up short.
I believe it was Levi Wallace gets called for pass interference. Throws short. Evans is coming back to the ball, kind of fights through his body. How tough is that for a defensive back to not get called on that play?
Yeah, those are tough. Underthrown balls are tough, and that's we continue to try and teach it. To make sure our technique is as good as it can be. that's the part we can control.
What went into the decision to not hand the ball off to any running backs in the first half? Because it seemed like once Devin, Singletary, and the running game got going in the second half, the offense opened up a little.
Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I liked what we did in the second half, mixing it up. I thought Coach Dable did a good job there.
When you're in that 4th and 3 decision-making process, does it come into play at all about, not giving Tom Brady too many opportunities and being aggressive in that moment?
Yeah, absolutely it does. Absolutely it does. And that's all factored in my mind at that how we're playing and the flow of the game. And, so we were down 14, still late in the third quarter, albeit, but, in the third quarter. And, again, I liked how we were playing by that point, made some good adjustments at halftime. And defense had 2 stops, leading into there, 3 total if you go back to the end of the first half. So, anyway, at the end of the day, I want to put them in position, and I thought we were in position at the end there to win it.
Say 2 more, please. Sean, about the idea of moral victories. It's been said by your players, there are none. Obviously, you need wins. But getting on the plane tonight, I'm guessing there are some things that to stop you from getting into a dark place. There's some good things that you can pull out of this game.
Yeah.
What, as a coach, do you do for getting your guys ready, getting them ready for next week and the whole thing? How do you package what happened in this game and give it back to them tomorrow and as the week goes on?
Well, I think perspective is important, right? From in terms of leadership-wise, perspective is important, and we're going down the home stretch here, so that we take them one at a time, control the things we can control. And really none of it will matter if we don't win, right? All the what-ifs, the scenarios, this and that. The thing that we can control is what we do, and that'll be our focus this week. Yeah, I don't. I know it's his knee. I don't know anything further at this point, but I'll give you it as soon as I got it. All right, thanks, guys.
Sean McDermott's press conference is brought to you by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield of Western New York, the official health plan of the Buffalo Bills.
Sean McDermott is right. All the scenarios, all the situation, all the ways they can get into the playoffs, whether it's having help from other teams or whether it's winning out the rest of the season, it doesn't matter unless they can control what they can control, which is winning these football games to end this season. A game against the Carolina Panthers is next at home for the Buffalo Bills. They get back to those 1 o'clock games that they're used to having. So what do you need to see from this team this week leading up to this one?
We need 2 halves like we saw in the second half. We need to see, a full game like we saw against the New Orleans Saints, those kind of games. We need the defense to show up against the run game like they did in the second half tonight against Leonard Fournette and the Bucs. They certainly also need Josh Allen to be healthy. He's walking out. He left the podium tonight. He's in a walking boot as he gets on to come back to Buffalo. That's an injury that everybody's going to be watching with a lot of attention. So his health is an issue going forward. And it'll be interesting to see how the roster continues to evolve at this late point in the season. Tonight, Marquez Stevenson and Isaiah McKenzie were both active for the game. 7 wide receivers active for the game. Zach Moss was deactivated. John Feliciano was up for the game but did not play. They continue to work this roster to try and find the best combination of guys at every position group to get on the field for whatever game they're going to play. Carolina will change that philosophy away from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers philosophy, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. But that's also an issue going forward. It's going to be fun to watch and see these guys take control and try and make the most of their opportunities, whoever it may be.
Yeah, Sean McDermott said he liked the variety that he saw out of this offense, so we'll see if that keeps going in this next game against the Carolina Panthers. We're going to wrap it up here. Thank you for joining us. For Steve Tasker, I'm Maddy Glab. Make sure you tune in to MSG at 11:30 for more sound, more highlights, and a better breakdown of this game. We get into a lot more things, so stick with us here. We'll see you next week.